Growing up in the 1990s, the last generation to truly experience life. If you grew up in the 1990s, you'll remember a time before everything went digital. It was a time when we truly lived. Join me as we rewind time, back to the days when music from CDs still sounded great, where you hoped the disc wouldn't skip, and Friday night video rentals were an essential part of life. These aren't just memories, they're experiences that shaped an entire generation. Today, we're going to explore 20 things that anyone who grew up in the 90s will never forget. Let's listen and relive those moments. CD players and anti-skip tech. Do you remember the joy of holding a portable CD player for the first time? In the early 90s, CD players started replacing cassette Walkmans, which was a huge upgrade, a true leap forward in personal audio technology. After years of struggling with easily tangled, jammed, or worn-out cassette tapes from rewinding and fast-forwarding, now you no longer had to rewind or flip sides. Just pop in a disc, press play, and the music would sound much clearer and smoother than our old, worn-out cassettes. It was an entirely new experience. Crystal clear, noise-free music, where every note seemed more vibrant than ever. We were engrossed in listening to entire albums, from start to finish, admiring the elaborately designed album art and reading the lyrics printed in the accompanying booklets. But they weren't perfect, right? Most of us remember having to hold the player very carefully to avoid skipping the disc, even with anti-skip technology. Anti-skip technology sounded impressive, but in reality, it only worked partially. Try jogging with a Discman attached to your hip. The disc would definitely skip constantly. Sometimes we had to hold the player perfectly flat in our palm, walking gently as if carrying something precious. Every time the music skipped or jumped, our hearts would leap, worried about our beloved CD. Even so, it was worth it. CDs truly were the future, even if you had to babysit your player. The CD player was a gateway to a world of high-quality music, shaping how we experienced and interacted with our favorite songs throughout the 90s. Cassette to CD transition. The 90s witnessed a major shift in how we listened to music, a quiet but impressive audio revolution. If you remember those familiar cassette Walkmans, the advent of CD players in the early 90s was truly a leap forward in technology and convenience. From having to be careful with delicate tapes, always fearing they would tangle or break, to having to fast forward and rewind for tens of minutes to find a favorite song, cassette tapes became a symbol of a certain era. However, CDs brought a completely different experience. No longer having to rewind or flip sides, but just popping in a disc and skipping straight to your favorite song was a truly new and convenient experience. It was a feeling of true liberation. You could switch from one song to another with just a button press, no longer having to wait or guess what the next song would be. The sound quality on CDs was also clearer, without the distortion or static that cassette tapes developed after some use. For many, owning a CD player and a shiny CD collection was a source of pride, a sign that you had progressed with the times. This was a sign of a new era arriving. Though there was still a bit of nostalgia for the romance of cassette tapes and handmade mixtapes, the shift to CDs was an undeniable turning point, shaping how we consume music to this day. It wasn't just a change in format, but also a symbol of progress, of a new generation stepping into the digital age. Making mixtapes and burning CDs. There was something truly magical about making your own mixtapes, wasn't there? It wasn't just about recording songs. It was a true art form, a way to express your personality and emotions. You had to time it just right to hit record, trying to avoid the DJ talking over the song, and hoping the song wouldn't end abruptly mid-track. Every second of recording was a tension, a race against time to get the perfect recording. Mixtapes were gifts of love, of care. We made mixtapes for ourselves, for crushes, or just to share with friends. Each mixtape was a story told through music, a string of emotions woven through each melody. Sometimes it was upbeat pop songs to liven the mood. Sometimes it was gentle ballads to soothe the soul. As CDs became more common, we also transitioned to burning our mixes onto discs, often called burning CDs. Do you remember the excitement when your computer started the burning process? The indicator light, blinking continuously, and you hoped the process would complete without any errors? A blank CD now was a blank canvas for your creativity. Kids today will never know the thrill of swapping a mixtape with friends or the excitement of hearing a perfect song when you hit play. These mixtapes and burned CDs were pieces of memory, a testament to creativity and personal connection in an era where music was still a physical experience, something you could hold and share. Friday night video store trips. Friday nights used to be about heading to the video store, a sacred ritual after a stressful week of school and work. Whether it was Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, or Suncoast, you'd have your membership card in hand, ready to pick out your weekend movies. Stepping into the store, a distinctive scent of VHS plastic, popcorn, and candy would hit your senses, instantly transporting you into a world of entertainment. The shelves were neatly organized with VHS tapes by genre, from action, horror, to comedy and family films. You'd walk through each aisle, gazing at the tape covers, reading summaries, and excitedly discussing with friends or family. New releases were a big deal, and you'd always hope the latest Blockbuster was still available to rent because they were highly sought after. The new releases section was always the busiest, with people browsing back and forth, searching for their desired title. If you weren't quick, you'd have to choose another movie, sometimes a surprising choice that led to interesting discoveries. The excitement of picking out the perfect tape, then rushing home to watch it, was a kind of magic all its own. No streaming, no instant access. Just the thrill of choosing a movie off the shelf, taking it home, and turning Friday night into a cozy movie night with family and friends. It wasn't just about renting a movie, it was the whole experience, an indispensable part of 90s childhood. Video store membership cards. To rent movies, you needed a membership card, right? It wasn't just a simple plastic card, it was your passport to the world of entertainment every Friday night. The feeling of owning a card from Blockbuster with its characteristic blue and yellow colors, or Hollywood Video, or Suncoast, brought a little sense of pride. It was like a passport to a world of stories, adventures you would embark on over the weekend. When you walked into the store, pulling the card out of your wallet to hand to the clerk was a confident gesture, a sign that you were grown up and had the freedom to choose movies for the whole family. This card was a symbol of trust, a key unlocking the door to countless cinematic choices. You could choose any movie you wanted, as long as it wasn't already rented out. And of course, with that privilege came responsibility. The dread of late fees always loomed, especially when you got engrossed in rewatching a movie and forgot the due date. The membership card was part of the social experience, a testament to an era where family entertainment required a bit of effort, a physical trip, and a card in your wallet. It's a warm memory of those eagerly anticipated Friday nights and the excitement of discovering new stories. VHS tapes and VCRs. Our magical Friday nights also meant you'd pull out a well-worn VHS tape, slide it into the VCR, and press play. Whether it was a movie you owned or a rental from the corner video store, there was something special about watching it on your own TV. The TV screen might be a bit grainy, with horizontal lines occasionally running across. Sometimes you'd need to adjust the tracking for a clearer picture, but that was part of the charm, wasn't it? Those imperfections didn't diminish our enjoyment. On the contrary, they made the movie-watching experience more authentic and memorable. The soft, whirring sound as the tape loaded, the satisfying click as you closed the tape tray. It meant you were about to have a good time right in your living room. The feeling of the tape being pulled across the red heads, generating images on the screen, was a marvel of technology at the time. We recorded our favorite shows, Saturday morning cartoons, and even precious family moments onto these tapes. VHS tapes and VCRs weren't just devices. They were the center of home entertainment, preserving countless memories, from weekend movie nights to the first family videos ever recorded. Watching home videos on VHS. Besides renting movies from stores, VHS tapes were also how we preserved personal moments, priceless family memories. Do you remember those bulky personal video cameras, often carried on the shoulder? Dozens of instruction sheets came with new blank tapes, just in case you wanted to record a family event or a party. From kids' first birthdays, summer picnics, to holiday gatherings with family, everything was carefully recorded on those VHS tapes. The soft whirring sound as the tape loaded, the satisfying click when you pressed play, brought a unique feeling. It meant you were rewatching your own memories, right in the living room. The whole family would gather around the TV, laughing out loud, watching old footage, clumsy moments, or the innocent faces of yourselves and loved ones. Sometimes it was footage of you learning to walk, images of grandparents playing, or family gatherings filled with laughter. These tapes might fade over time, the image quality not perfect, but their emotional value was incomparable. They are living proof of days gone by, a treasure trove of memories that only those who grew up in the 90s truly understand and cherish. Do you remember the thrill of waiting for a CD or VHS tape to play? What was the movie you rewatched the most from the video store? Share below. Floppy disks. Before USBs or cloud storage, we had floppy disks. I mean, truly floppy. If you're old enough, you might remember the large 8-inch disks or the 5¼ inch disks that truly bent when you held them. They were surprisingly large and fragile. But most of us in the 90s used the 3.5-inch type, those hard plastic disks with a small sliding metal bar. Although called floppy, they were much sturdier than previous generations. This 3.5-inch disc became a symbol of personal data storage in the early days of home computing. When your computer started reading it, the clicking and whirring sounds meant your file, hopefully, was loading. It was the sound of anticipation, of technology at work. You could sit there, holding your breath, hoping the floppy disk wouldn't fail and your data would be successfully retrieved. Their capacity wasn't high, only about 1.44 megabytes, meaning you could only save a few text documents or a couple of low-resolution photos. This sounds ridiculous now, but back then it felt like the future. Floppy disks are a symbol of the beginning of the personal computer era, a testament to our first steps into the digital world. Dial-up internet and modem sound. Do you remember the unforgettable sound of connecting to the internet? The screeching, buzzing, beeping sounds seemed to last forever, like a strange song of technology. It was a symphony of waiting, signaling that you were about to discover something new, but it always felt like an adventure or a test of patience. You could sit there, listening to every beep, every buzz, and feel a thrill rising as you knew you were about to go online. And then, the horror struck. If someone in the house picked up the phone while you were online, it was like losing all progress, especially if you were downloading a file, and everything would restart from the beginning. It wasn't uncommon to hear your mom yelling, "Don't pick up the phone. I'm waiting for an important call." It felt like you were in the middle of a cold war in your own home, where the internet and the phone were two incompatible forces. And don't forget the thrilling moment when the screen finally loaded and the iconic "You've got mail" popped up. A simple message, but back then it felt like you'd won the internet lottery, a notification that you had connected to the big wide world outside. Dial-up internet was a sensory experience, a test of patience, and a symbol of the online world's shaky beginnings. Encarta CD-ROM. Before Google and smartphones came along, there was Encarta, the encyclopedia on CD-ROM that felt like the future. Do you remember the feeling of putting this disc into your computer's CD drive? A gentle whirring sound, and then a world of knowledge opened before your eyes. You'd spend hours exploring, clicking from one topic to another just out of curiosity. Encarta wasn't just for school projects. Sometimes you'd immerse yourself in it just for fun, getting lost in a completely new topic you never thought you'd be interested in. There were audio clips, interactive timelines, even short videos, multimedia features that were considered extremely advanced at the time. You could listen to historical speeches, watch short documentaries, or admire sharp images. And of course, Mind Maze, the quiz game that made you feel like a genius. You could spend hours solving quizzes, testing your knowledge across all sorts of fields. Back then, it felt like you had the whole world right on your screen, an endless source of information neatly contained on a CD. Encarta was our companion on the journey of knowledge discovery before the internet became widespread, a symbol of learning and exploration in the 90s. What was the hottest piece of tech you ever owned in the 90s? Do you remember the "you've got mail" feeling when connecting to the internet? Gaming magazines. In the days before the internet made guides and cheat codes easy to find, gaming magazines were our go-to guides, the Bible for every gamer. Do you remember the feeling of going to the newsstand, eagerly searching for the latest issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly EGM, GamePro, or Tips and Tricks? These magazines were practically treasure maps, leading us to the best tips, cheat codes, and reviews. Each issue was a small event, a doorway into the mysterious world of gaming. We'd flip through the pages, devouring every article, looking for new tricks to try or previews of upcoming games. The feeling of scrolling through sharp game images, reading in-depth analyses from experts, and dreaming about upcoming titles was an indispensable part of the gaming experience. It was a world of game discovery before the era of online forums or YouTube tutorials. You had to wait for it, savor it, and sometimes even compete with friends for the best tips. These magazines didn't just provide information, they fostered passion, created a true gaming community, and were an endless source of inspiration for millions of 90s kids. Pogs, game and collection. Do you remember Pogs? They were one of the things that defined the 90s, a game and collecting craze that exploded everywhere. Pogs were everywhere, at school, in kids' pockets, and on playgrounds. The game was simple, but the fun was endless. You'd gather with friends, each with a stack of Pogs, ready to battle. The goal? Knock other players' Pogs off their stack with your Pog, using a slammer, a heavier Pog, thrown down precisely. The clack when the slammer hit the stack of Pogs, and the burst of excitement when the Pogs flew everywhere were unforgettable moments. But it wasn't just the game, it was also the excitement of collecting them, trading with friends, and showing off your best ones. Each Pog was a little piece of memory, with images ranging from cartoon characters, brand logos, to abstract, colorful designs. The feeling of victory when you won a trade or knocked out a rare one was unbeatable. It was a means to connect, a way to express personality, and a symbol of 90s kid culture, bringing countless laughs and fierce playground battles. Saturday morning cartoons. Saturday mornings in the 90s were a magical time, a sacred ritual no kid wanted to miss. The TV was our window to a world of adventure, and it all started with a bowl of sugary cereal in hand, often Fruit Loops or Lucky Charms. Do you remember the feeling of slipping out of bed earlier than your parents, making a giant bowl of cereal, and then curling up on the sofa, ready for hours of non-stop entertainment? New episodes of Winnie the Pooh, Scooby-Doo, and Beetlejuice would kick off the weekend, but the list went on. From the superheroes of X-Men and Power Rangers, the adventures of Animaniacs and Tiny Toon Adventures, to the classics of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, each show was a new adventure to discover. The excitement of discovering what would come next kept us glued to the screen, while the theme songs became the soundtrack of our childhood. Those songs still echo in our minds to this day. Saturday morning cartoons were a doorway to imagination, a refuge of joy, and an indispensable part of a generation's childhood memories. PB Crisps. Do you remember PB Crisps? They were a beloved snack from the 90s, a distinctive flavor that many still crave to this day. These snacks were peanut-shaped and filled with delicious fillings like peanut butter, chocolate, or even peanut butter and jelly. Just thinking about them stimulates the taste buds, right? The crispy outer shell and creamy, smooth filling created the perfect snack experience, a combination of crunchiness and soft, rich indulgence. These snacks were often packed in small bags, convenient to bring to school, outings, or simply to munch on while watching TV. The feeling of biting into the crunchy shell and letting the peanut butter filling melt in your mouth was a small joy, a moment of pure satisfaction. Sadly, PB Crisps no longer exist. They vanished from shelves, leaving many fans nostalgic. But for those who remember, they still bring back delicious memories of that 90s decade. A sweet taste of the past that we can never forget. Disposable cameras. Before everyone had a smartphone with a high-quality camera in their pocket, we had disposable cameras. Do you remember those small, colorful plastic cameras? Disposable cameras were everywhere. You'd bring them to birthdays, weddings, parties, truly any memorable event. They were the only way to capture special moments without worrying about carrying an expensive camera or running out of film. You'd take a few pictures and hope for the best, then wait a few days to get the photos developed. The joy was in the surprise. You couldn't preview the photos, couldn't delete bad ones, and every shutter press was a gamble. Half the photos might be blurry, someone's eyes might be closed, or even your finger might accidentally cover the lens, but that didn't matter. What mattered was the thrill of going to the photo development shop, opening the envelope, and discovering the moments that had been captured. They weren't just photos. They were raw, authentic memories, truly reflecting the spirit of the moments captured, without editing or filters. Disposable cameras were a symbol of simplicity and authenticity in the pre-digital photography era. Paper maps. There was a time when every long road trip began with unfolding a large paper map across the kitchen table, an essential ritual for every journey. Do you remember the feeling of wrestling with its folds? Once unfolded, it could cover the entire table with all sorts of roads, landmarks, and symbols. You'd trace your route with your finger, maybe even use a pen to mark your path. It was a process that required focus, cooperation, and sometimes a little argument among travel companions. Most of us kept one in the car's glove compartment just in case. They might get worn at the folds and sometimes tear from repeated use, but they never ran out of battery or lost signal like today's GPS. Rain or shine, no phone signal. The paper map was always there, ready to guide you. It wasn't the most convenient. Locating yourself on the map required a certain skill, but it got the job done. And there was something to be proud of in figuring out your way on your own, feeling like a true explorer, navigating unfamiliar roads with just a map and a bit of patience. Paper maps are a symbol of self-reliance, of a world not yet dominated by digital technology, where navigation was still an art. Paying by check. Paying by check seems antiquated now, like a relic from a distant past, but back then, it was the standard way to handle most transactions. Whether you were paying rent, a utility bill, or buying a new appliance, writing a check was just a part of daily life. Do you remember the feeling of carefully writing each number, each letter, making sure there were no mistakes? Blue or black ink on the check, along with your signature, was a personal mark for each transaction. And don't forget those checkbooks with carbon paper copies where you'd always have a record of your payment for later reconciliation. Those faint copies were proof of everything you'd spent, a way to track personal finances before online banking. It might take longer to pay compared to swiping a card today, but it felt more personal in a way, as if you were truly in control of your money. Plus, writing checks meant you had to plan ahead, couldn't spontaneously buy anything. It was a lesson in financial management, a memory of caution and responsibility in an era where speed wasn't the top priority. Accessible flying. Flying in the 90s became more accessible to ordinary people, no longer a privilege reserved for the elite. With the advent of budget airlines and more affordable fares, flying was no longer just for the wealthy. It felt like a new era of travel, where people from all walks of life could board a plane and explore new places. Do you remember the excitement of stepping into the airport with security procedures much simpler than today? There were still no long security lines or strict rules about liquids or shoes, and it felt much more relaxed. You could easily go through security, board the plane, and enjoy the flight without too much worry. Travel in the 90s had a different allure. It wasn't always the most comfortable in terms of seating or amenities, but it felt special, like an adventure. Being able to fly to distant places, meet new people, and experience different cultures became a dream within reach for more people than ever before. It was a decade where air travel truly became a part of life. Smoking in public places. Do you remember the thick smoke-filled air everywhere in the early 90s? It's hard to believe, but you could even smoke inside McDonald's, in movie theaters, or on airplanes. Do you remember those small foil ashtrays on tables in fast food restaurants? Or the smell of cigarette smoke clinging to your clothes after you left a restaurant or bar? It wasn't just fast food restaurants. People smoked in restaurants, on planes, and even in movie theaters. The air was thick with smoke, and no one thought much of it. It was part of the landscape, a given in daily life. Whether you smoked or not, you had to breathe that air. The smell of smoke permeated everything, from clothes, hair, to car interiors. It's a very different picture from the world we live in today. Smoking in public places is clear evidence of how profoundly health and social awareness have changed in the subsequent decades. The disappearance of ashtrays and cleaner public spaces, smoking bans. Although not a toy or technology, this change profoundly reshaped public living spaces. Widespread smoking everywhere, from McDonald's to movie theaters, is hard to believe now. However, subsequent smoking bans gradually made the air cleaner for everyone. Do you remember the feeling when you no longer had to worry about inhaling secondhand smoke when eating out, watching movies, or even going to work? This was a big change, bringing cleaner living spaces that we might not have realized the value of at the time. Smoking bans didn't happen all at once. It was a gradual process, starting in certain public places, then spreading everywhere. There might have been initial opposition, but then people gradually got used to it and realized the clear benefits for health and quality of life. The disappearance of cigarette butts from dining tables and cleaner air is a testament to societal progress, a significant turning point in creating a better living environment for everyone. The 20. Forgotten cartoons from the 1990s. The 90s gave us some of the most insane, unforgettable cartoons. Heroes battling mutant sharks, ghost-powered superheroes, and even dinosaurs in leather jackets. Some became cult classics, while others faded too soon. Think you remember them all? Stick around. Your favorite forgotten cartoon might just make the list. Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Captain Planet and the Planeteers was more than just a TV show. It was a cultural movement. The iconic chant, Earth, fire, wind, water, heart became a rallying cry for viewers, uniting 5 teenagers who possessed unique powers to summon Captain Planet, a blue-skinned superhero committed to saving the planet. Together, they fought against villains like Luton Plunder and Hoggish Greedley, whose environmental destruction plans were always in the works. These evil characters were a constant threat, but Captain Planet and the Planeteers would stop them every time, proving the power of unity and responsibility. The show wasn't just about action, though. It carried an important message. It taught kids about the importance of teamwork, environmentalism, and making the world a better place. Despite its strong positive influence, Captain Planet slowly faded from the spotlight. Perhaps the message, though powerful, got drowned out by other shows of the time. The series also boasted celebrity voices like Whoopi Goldberg and LeVar Burton, which helped bring it a larger audience. Do you remember yelling "Go Planet" with your friends? That sense of urgency, the belief that we all have a part to play in protecting our world, it's a message that still resonates today, even if the show isn't as prominent as it once was. Biker mice from Mars. What happens when you mix high-speed motorcycles, alien warriors, and pure rock and roll attitude? You get biker mice from Mars. This 90s classic followed 3 battle-hardened anthropomorphic mice, Throttle, Modo, and Vinny, who escaped their war-torn home planet of Mars and crash-landed on Earth. But they weren't here for a peaceful retirement. Their mission? To take down the vile Plutarchians, an alien race bent on stripping planets of their natural resources. The show had an edge that set it apart. Each character had their own brand of cool. Throttle, the fearless and level-headed leader, always kept his shades on. Modo, the powerhouse with a cybernetic arm, packed serious strength. And Vinny, the reckless daredevil, was always looking for his next thrill. They weren't just heroes, they were rebels, embodying the ultimate 90s anti-hero attitude. Kids ate it up. The fast-paced action, the leather-clad coolness, and of course the toy line made Biker Mice from Mars a hit. Though it may have been overshadowed by similar shows of the time, it still captured a rebellious energy that made it unforgettable. Even today, fans look back on it as one of the most stylish and action-packed cartoons of its era. Denver, the Last Dinosaur. He's your friend, and a whole lot more. If you grew up in the late 80s and early 90s, you probably remember Denver, the Last Dinosaur. This show had a unique twist, mixing prehistoric wonder with modern-day adventure. It all started when a group of California teens stumbled upon a mysterious dinosaur egg, which hatched into Denver, a fun-loving, guitar-playing, skateboarding dinosaur. Instead of rampaging through the city like in traditional monster movies, Denver became their loyal friend, and they made it their mission to keep him safe from prying scientists and greedy opportunists. But Denver, the Last Dinosaur, was more than just a wacky adventure. At its core, it was about friendship, acceptance, and standing up for what's right. Denver wasn't just a giant reptile. He was a symbol of loyalty, kindness, and embracing differences. The show balanced humor, action, and heartwarming moments, making it a favorite among kids. Though it didn't have a long run, Denver left his mark. His upbeat theme song, his unforgettable antics, and the show's feel-good message kept him alive in the hearts of fans. He remains a nostalgic reminder of a time when dinosaurs weren't just ancient creatures, they were best friends. Double Dragon. When video games dominated the 90s, Double Dragon stood among the greats. The arcade classic was already a hit, but the animated series took things further, expanding the story of twin brothers Billy and Jimmy Lee. These martial arts masters weren't just street fighters. They were warriors destined to wield the mystical power of the dragon. Their mission? to defend the world against the sinister Shadow Warriors, led by the menacing Shadow Master. What made Double Dragon stand out was its high-energy action. Each episode delivered intense martial arts battles, electrifying energy blasts, and dramatic showdowns that kept kids on the edge of their seats. But it wasn't just about fighting. Along the way, the brothers encountered a cast of unforgettable allies and ruthless villains, each adding depth to the show's world. Despite its short run, the cartoon helped cement Double Dragon as more than just a game. It became a full-fledged franchise. The series may not have lasted as long as some of its animated rivals, but for fans, it captured the spirit of martial arts heroism and brought the arcade experience to life in a way that still sparks nostalgia today. Street Sharks. Jawsome. If you grew up in the 90s, you probably remember Street Sharks, one of the most over-the-top, action-packed cartoons of the decade. The show followed four brothers, John, Ripster, Jab, and Big Slamu, who were transformed into half-man, half-shark mutants thanks to the twisted experiments of the villainous Dr. Paradigm. Now, as the Street Sharks, they used their brute strength, razor-sharp teeth, and unstoppable attitude to fight crime and take down Paradigm's evil creations. What made Street Sharks stand out was its sheer absurdity and over-the-top action. These weren't just any crime fighters. They could burrow through solid pavement, bite through steel, and take on monstrous foes with pure, unrelenting force. Each brother had a distinct personality. Ripster was the strategic leader, Jab was the wisecracking street brawler, Big Slamu brought the muscle, and Streaks had a need for speed. And let's not forget the toys. Massive action figures with chomping jaws that every kid wanted. While some dismissed Street Sharks as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles knockoff, it had a style of its own. With its humor, larger-than-life characters, and outrageous catchphrases, it carved out its own space in 90s pop culture. Even today, it remains a cult favorite among fans of extreme, in-your-face action. The Bots Master. What if your best friends were battle-ready robots? The Bots Master was a hidden gem of 90s animation, blending action, humor, and futuristic tech in a way few shows dared. The story followed Ziv ZZ Zoolander, a genius teenage inventor who created the 3A bots, advanced, highly skilled robots designed to help humanity. But when the corrupt robotic Megafact Corporation, RM Corp, turned against him, ZZ and his team of bots had to fight back against the sinister Dr. Hiss and his army of mechanical enforcers. What made the Bots Master stand out was its mix of fast-paced action and sharp humor. Each bot had a distinct personality, from the tough and protective Jammerhead to the witty and resourceful Blitzy. The villains were delightfully over the top, making every battle as fun as it was intense. But the show's biggest hook? 3D action sequences. Certain scenes were designed to pop using special 3D glasses that came with the toys, giving kids an extra reason to tune in. Despite its ambitious storytelling and innovative visuals, The Bots Master lasted only one season, likely due to high production costs. But for those who watched, it remains a bold and underrated entry in 90s sci-fi animation. The Adventures of T-Rex. What happens when you mix dinosaurs, gangsters, and superhero action? You get The Adventures of T-Rex, one of the most unique animated series of the early 90s. This show followed 5 dinosaur brothers, Bernie, Bruno, Bubba, Buck, and Bugsy, who lived a double life. By day, they ran the hottest nightclub in Rep City, dazzling audiences with their musical performances. But by night, they transformed into masked crime fighters, using their martial arts skills and high-tech gadgets to battle the criminal underworld led by the ruthless Big Boss Graves. What made The Adventures of T-Rex stand out was its unusual blend of genres. It combined classic gangster drama with superhero action, all wrapped in a world populated entirely by anthropomorphic dinosaurs. The animation had a sleek, noir-inspired aesthetic, and the character designs gave each T-Rex brother a distinct personality. While the show had plenty of slapstick humor, it also delivered stylish action sequences and an engaging, crime-filled storyline. Despite its originality, The Adventures of T-Rex only lasted one season. However, its mix of prehistoric absurdity, stylish animation, and crime-fighting dinosaurs left a lasting impression on those who tuned in. SWAT Cats. When it comes to fearless duos, few can match the raw energy of SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron. This high-octane series took crime fighting to new heights, literally. It followed Chance T-Bone Furlong and Jake Razor Clausen, two ex-enforcers turned vigilante pilots. After being unfairly discharged, they built a secret hangar beneath a junkyard, souped up the powerful TurboCat jet, and took it upon themselves to protect Megacat City from an endless wave of threats. What made SWAT Cats special was its bold, gritty tone and top-notch animation. The TurboCat wasn't just a jet, it was a fully loaded, high-tech war machine, complete with an arsenal of specialized missiles and gadgets. And it needed every bit of firepower to take on Megacat City's rogue gallery of villains, from the sinister Dr. Viper to the time-warping Pastmaster. Every episode was a roller coaster of high-speed dogfights, explosive action, and sharp banter between T-Bone and Razor. Despite its success, SWAT Cats met an early end due to budget cuts, leaving fans craving more. But even today, its blend of action, humor, and pure 90s attitude keeps it legendary. SWAT Cats wasn't just another cartoon, it was an adrenaline-fueled masterpiece. Who was your favorite hero from the wildest cartoons of the 90s? Darkwing Duck, Freakazoid, Johnny Bravo, The Tick. Other, please leave your answer in the comments below. Mummies alive. How do you make mummies cool? Simple. Give them superpowers and throw them into a modern-day battle between good and evil. Mummies Alive took ancient Egyptian mythology and infused it with high-energy action and adventure. The series followed 4 resurrected guardians, Jackal, Wrath, Armin, and Nefertina, sworn to protect Presley Carnavan, a seemingly ordinary kid who just happened to be the reincarnation of Pharaoh Rapses. But standing in their way was the evil sorcerer Scarab, who sought to steal Presley's life force to achieve immortality. What made Mummies Alive? Special was its creative premise and distinct characters. Each mummy had their own unique personality, armor, and abilities. Jackal, the noble leader with falcon-based powers. Wrath, the brains of the group with mastery over magic. Armin, the towering brute with unmatched strength. And Nefertina, the agile warrior who defied expectations as the team's lone female fighter. Their mix of ancient wisdom and modern confusion led to plenty of humor, balancing out the intense action. Though it only lasted one season, Mummies Alive made a lasting impression. Its fusion of mythology, adventure, and superhero-style transformations gave it a unique identity, ensuring that fans still remember it as one of the most underrated gems of the 90s. The Tick. With its absurd humor and larger-than-life characters, The Tick was the ultimate superhero parody. Premiering in 1994, this cult classic followed the adventures of The Tick, a well-meaning but clueless superhero with super strength, near invulnerability, and a complete lack of common sense. Donning his signature blue suit and antennae, he patrolled the city, battling bizarre villains like the monocle-wearing, chair-faced Chippendale, the nefarious El Cid, and the hilariously literal man-eating cow. At his side was Arthur, his reluctant sidekick, a former accountant in a moth costume, who often played the straight man to the Tick's over-the-top antics. Together, they navigated a world filled with equally eccentric heroes, including the vain Die Fledermaus, the sewer-dwelling but timid sewer urchin, and the patriotic American maid. What made the Tick special was its brilliant satire of superhero tropes. Instead of dark, brooding heroes, it delivered ridiculous one-liners, exaggerated heroism, and surreal comedy. Though the animated series was canceled too soon, it developed a devoted fan base, leading to multiple revivals, including a live-action version. Decades later, the Tick remains a beloved gem, proving that superheroes can be both mighty and ridiculously funny. Big Bad Beetleborgs. What if you could step into the pages of your favorite comic book and become a superhero? Big Bad Beetleborgs brought that fantasy to life, blending action, comedy, and supernatural fun. The story followed three kids, Drew, Joe, and Roland, who stumbled upon a spooky mansion and accidentally freed Flabber, a wacky, Elvis-inspired ghost. In gratitude, Flabber granted their wish to become their favorite comic book heroes, the Beetleborgs. But their excitement was short-lived when the villains from the same comic, led by the sinister Vexor, also came to life. The show thrived on its mix of over-the-top action and goofy humor. Flabber and his monstrous housemates, classic horror-inspired characters like a vampire, a mummy, and a werewolf, provided endless comedic antics. Meanwhile, the Beetleborgs themselves sported sleek metallic suits, high-tech weapons, and impressive vehicles that made every battle thrilling. Though often compared to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Big Bad Beetleborgs had a unique charm. It combined superhero action with a haunted house setting, giving it a quirky, family-friendly twist. While it only ran for 2 seasons, its blend of campy humor, supernatural elements, and comic book adventure made it a nostalgic favorite for 90s kids. Earthworm Jim. An earthworm in a high-tech supersuit fighting intergalactic villains? Only the 90s could produce something as bizarre and brilliant as Earthworm Jim. Based on the hit video game, this animated series took the game's absurd concept and expanded it into a full-fledged cartoon packed with action, comedy, and some of the weirdest characters ever created. The story followed Jim, an ordinary earthworm who stumbled upon an ultra-advanced power suit that transformed him into an unlikely superhero. With his loyal and highly unlucky sidekick, Peter Puppy, Jim embarked on surreal adventures, protecting the universe and attempting to win the affection of Princess What's-Her-Name. However, Jim's heroics were constantly interrupted by a rogues gallery of bizarre villains, including the devious Psy-Crow, the villainous Queen Slug for a Butt, and the diabolical Professor Monkey for a Head. What set Earthworm Jim apart was its offbeat, self-aware humor. The show was filled with puns, slapstick comedy, and ridiculous dialogue that made fun of superhero tropes. The animation captured the frantic energy of the video game, bringing its chaotic and colorful world to life. Though it only lasted 2 seasons, Earthworm Jim remains a cult favorite, proving that even the strangest concepts can make for great cartoons. Extreme Ghostbusters. When it comes to reinvigorating a beloved franchise, Extreme Ghostbusters set the gold standard. Premiering in 1997, this animated sequel to the real Ghostbusters introduced a new generation of paranormal investigators while maintaining the heart of the original. Set years after the Ghostbusters had disbanded, Egon Spengler remained at the old firehouse, studying supernatural activity and teaching at a local university. When a new ghost outbreak threatened New York City, he was forced to recruit fresh faces, 4 of his students, to carry on the ghost-busting legacy. Each new recruit brought a distinct personality and skill set. Kylie Griffin, the goth and paranormal expert, emerged as the de facto leader. Eduardo Rivera, the sarcastic slacker, was reluctant, but ultimately proved himself. Garrett Miller, a thrill-seeker and wheelchair user, never backed down from danger. Roland Jackson, the tech genius, ensured their gear was always in top shape. Together, they battled a new wave of terrifying spirits, which were darker and more monstrous than ever before. What set Extreme Ghostbusters apart was its maturity. The series delved into themes of fear, loss, and self-doubt, while delivering high-stakes action and eerie supernatural encounters. Though short-lived, it remains one of the most underrated revivals in animation history. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. What happens when tomatoes develop intelligence, grow fangs, and decide to take over the world? You get Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, a delightfully absurd animated series based on the cult classic horror comedy films. Premiering in 1990, the show took the ridiculous premise of the movies and transformed it into a surprisingly fun and engaging Saturday morning cartoon. The story followed Chad Finletter, a young hero determined to stop the evil doctor, Putrid T. Gangrene, a mad scientist obsessed with using mutant tomatoes to conquer the world. With the help of his friends, Tara Boomday, a tomato-turned-human, and the bumbling but well-meaning Wilbur Finletter, Chad found himself in a series of wacky, action-packed adventures. The villainous tomatoes weren't just mindless monsters. They had distinct personalities, from the menacing Zoltan to the dim-witted Ketchuk. What made Attack of the Killer Tomatoes special was its self-aware humor. The show often broke the fourth wall, poking fun at itself and other cartoons. It thrived on absurdity, embracing its over-the-top premise with clever writing and slapstick comedy. Though it only lasted 2 seasons, its unique mix of parody, action, and comedy cemented its place as one of the strangest yet most memorable cartoons of the early 90s. Which of these forgotten 90s cartoons was your favorite, and why? Freakazoid. What happens when a tech-savvy teenager gets sucked into cyberspace and emerges with superpowers? You get Freakazoid, one of the wildest and most unpredictable cartoons of the 90s. The show followed Dexter Douglas, an ordinary computer geek who accidentally activated a mysterious code, transforming him into Freakazoid, a manic, blue-skinned superhero with boundless energy and a knack for absurd humor. With super speed, agility, and a complete disregard for logic, Freakazoid battled eccentric villains like the diabolical Loeb, the bumbling cave guy, and the ever-frightening Candlejack. But Freakazoid was far from a traditional superhero show. It thrived on chaos, breaking the fourth wall, spoofing pop culture, and throwing in surreal gags at every turn. The humor ranged from slapstick to razor-sharp wit, making it just as enjoyable for adults as it was for kids. Alongside memorable allies like the deadpan sergeant, Cosgrove, and the wise mentor Roddy McStew, Freakazoid's adventures were as unpredictable as they were hilarious. Despite lasting only 2 seasons, Freakazoid developed a cult following thanks to its fast-paced comedy and unique approach to superhero storytelling. To this day, it remains a beloved gem of 90s animation. Cadillacs and dinosaurs. What happens when you mix roaring dinosaurs with roaring engines? Cadillacs and Dinosaurs delivered a unique blend of post-apocalyptic adventure, classic car culture, and environmental themes, making it one of the most distinctive cartoons of the 90s. Based on the Xenozoic Tales comics, the show followed Jack Tenrec, a brilliant mechanic and eco-warrior, as he navigated a world where nature had reclaimed the planet and dinosaurs roamed alongside humanity. With his sleek Cadillac and his fearless partner, Hannah Dundee, Jack defended civilization against poachers, warlords, and those who threatened the fragile balance between man and beast. What set Cadillacs and Dinosaurs apart was its fusion of old-school cool with futuristic survival. Jack wasn't just a hero. He was a gearhead with a code, a mechanic who believed in respecting both technology and nature. The show's themes of environmental responsibility and conservation added depth. making it more than just an action-packed spectacle. Despite its striking premise, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs struggled to find a mainstream audience. Its more mature storytelling and darker themes may have appealed more to older viewers, making it harder to connect with younger Saturday morning crowds. For those who remember it, the show remains an unforgettable piece of 90s animation history. Which 90s cartoon had the best theme song? Drop your favorite in the comments. The Pirates of Dark Water. A world drowning in darkness, a prince destined to save it. The Pirates of Dark Water took audiences on an epic high seas journey unlike anything else in 90s animation. Set in the mysterious world of Mir, the story followed Ren, a young prince who discovered his royal heritage and his duty to stop the creeping corruption of Dark Water. To do so, he had to find the 13 Treasures of Rule, powerful artifacts capable of restoring balance. But the treacherous pirate Lord Bloth would stop at nothing to seize them first. With a ragtag crew, including the fierce warrior Tula, the gruff but loyal Ios, and the mischievous monkey bird Niddler, Ren faced sea monsters, deadly villains, and the ever-present threat of dark water. What set the show apart was its richly detailed world-building, cinematic animation, and a serialized format rarely seen in Saturday morning cartoons. Every episode felt like a chapter in an unfolding saga, drawing viewers deeper into the lore of Mer. Despite its ambitious storytelling and devoted fan base, the Pirates of Dark Water was cut short before Ren could complete his quest. Its legacy endures as one of the most unique and immersive animated adventures of its time. Reboot. The dawn of CGI television began with Reboot. Premiering in 1994, it wasn't just another Saturday morning cartoon, it was a revolution. As the first fully computer-generated TV series, Reboot transported audiences into Mainframe, a digital city inside a computer. At its core was Bob, a guardian whose mission was to protect Mainframe from cyber threats, including the sinister virus Megabyte and his chaotic sister, Hexadecimal. With the help of Dot Matrix, her younger brother Enzo, and the loyal cyberdog Frisket, Bob battled incoming user games, rogue programs, and the ever-present dangers lurking within the system. What made Reboot truly special wasn't just its pioneering animation, but its clever writing. The show balanced humor, action, and pop culture references that made it feel fresh and engaging. Yet, as it progressed, Reboot took a bold turn, embracing darker themes of loss, war, and sacrifice. Unlike many episodic 90s cartoons, Reboot adopted serialized storytelling, keeping fans invested in its evolving narrative. Though early CGI had its limitations, Reboot paved the way for future animated series, proving that computer-generated storytelling had a place in television. Skeleton Warriors. If you craved dark fantasy with a heavy metal edge, Skeleton Warriors was the ultimate Saturday morning thrill. Premiering in 1994, this animated series brought gothic aesthetics, epic battles, and an intense struggle between good and evil. At its heart was the battle for the powerful Lightstar Crystal, which split into two halves, one empowering the noble Legion of Light, the other corrupting Baron Dark and his skeletal minions. Prince Lightstar, along with his sister Talon and their brother Grimskull, wielded the crystal's light to protect humanity. But the stakes were high. Their foes, the Skeleton Warriors, were more than just enemies. They were undead nightmares, commanded by the ruthless Baron Dark, who could turn others into skeletal abominations. Visually, Skeleton Warriors was unforgettable. Its gothic art style, shadowy landscapes, and eerie character designs gave it a uniquely menacing tone, setting it apart from other 90s cartoons. Adding to the hype was a toy line featuring glow-in-the-dark action figures that made Baron Dark's army even more sinister. Despite its ambitious world-building and bold premise, Skeleton Warriors lasted just one season. But for those who witnessed its dark fantasy unfold, the legend of the Light Star Crystal still burns bright. Mighty Max. Not every hero needed super strength. Some just needed a magic hat and a whole lot of guts. Mighty Max was a rare gem of 90s animation, blending adventure, mythology, and surprisingly dark storytelling. The series followed Max, an ordinary kid who discovered he was the legendary Cap Bearer, chosen to battle the sinister Skullmaster. With his wise but mysterious mentor Virgil and his indestructible bodyguard Norman, Max traveled across dimensions, facing terrifying monsters and ancient evils. What set Mighty Max apart was its willingness to go darker than most kids' cartoons. The show didn't shy away from serious themes like destiny, sacrifice, and even death. The stakes always felt real. Villains weren't just defeated. Sometimes heroes didn't make it out alive. This intensity made Mighty Max stand out from other adventure cartoons, giving it a cult following among those who appreciated its depth. And then, of course, there were the toys. Based on the hugely popular Mighty Max playsets, miniature, horror-themed worlds packed with tiny figures, the show had a built-in fan base. But despite its innovation, Mighty Max struggled to compete with lighter, more marketable cartoons. Still, for those who watched, it remains one of the boldest and most underrated animated series of its time. Which 90s childhood memory makes you smile the most? Share now. The 90s weren't just a decade, they were a way of life, an experience that those who grew up during that time will forever cherish. From the unique sound of the internet modem to the thrill of picking out a new videotape, each memory is a colorful piece of childhood. These things may have disappeared, but their flavor and memories live on in our hearts. Do you have a favorite memory from the 90s that I haven't mentioned? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share Who Remembers with friends who grew up in the 90s. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next videos.